Hey everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Snapchat. I'm joined here today by none other than Cozy Snap as we go towards our 2-year anniversary of the Snapchat. That's going to be next week, Cozy. 2 years of this. Can you believe it?
Are you going to be purple for our 2-year? I feel like you should be purple. Actually, it kind of looks like the purpleness of the symbiote here is like reflecting off you. Are you just this is just thematic actually. This is great.
Man, you're making me all like self-conscious if I look. Like I'm trying to think of if I can edit this on the fly to make it look like
No,
I'm
you look
not purple.
You look good.
Thank you. No, I don't. I do not. The problem is you have such a beautiful, perfect camera. Light setup is immaculate. I'm using this webcam as a backup because my other camera caught fire midway through the Snapchat, I'll add. What a gong show that was. But I will say people really did appreciate the Remembrance Alex and the Elephant Alex.
Memorial Alex, man. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. But he's here. He's back. He's he's ready to talk about Scorn, buddy. And man, oh man, we have Scorn to talk about. We got 2 1-cost cards and Scorn and Agony, man. Hit me with what you thinking about Scorn. Kind of a weird week because Scorn came out, but then we had High Voltage, and then it just kind of like really quickly went past Scorn. And so what are we thinking? What do you think about it?
Yeah, so High Voltage has been very, we'll say, damaging to the statistics side of Marvel Snap this week on the ranked statistics side because we don't have as much games played in standard ranked because people are playing straight up High Voltage. If they want to get their weekend mission with Scorn done, they're going to do it in High Voltage. So there's all these things that are happening right now, which I find very fascinating. So we don't have great big pools of data, but what I will say is I think that Scorn is unfortunately a victim of its spotlight week because we're looking at a very low popularity, like very low play rate. I don't think this is indicative of what Scorn is. This card is good for discard. I think it's a solid ass card, and it's just unfortunate that it's in such a crappy spotlight week.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's 52 that I see, 52%, 5% popularity, and yeah, it's just a small pool to see that. I think 52 for discard's fine, and again, I think that's where it was floating when it came out. Playing it, I thought this was exactly what the archetype needed. It was a little funky. There was some things that we were trying that worked, some that didn't. But mainly, I think this is just a great thing for dependable discard. I think that's exactly what it needed. We had the additions of Moon Knight. We had the addition and the changes to Swordmaster. Some stuff happened to get Scorn in the right spot. We only get discard cards every so often. I liked her. I think the only thing that I had to get used to with her was how Dracula works still, right? And trying to like, all right, I don't want her, if she didn't get big enough, I don't want her to just sit there and get absorbed instead of Apocalypse. So you have like your new kind of issue opposed to Swarm. But yeah, man, I had a good time doing different styles of decks with her.
Yeah, I felt like it was stepping on the toes of Apocalypse often. I wasn't sure if I have Apocalypse and Scorn. What I do is often playing the Scorn on turn 6, in order to kind of make room for the hit on Apocalypse. But it often made it so that while Scorn was distributing power equally across the board with its effect, Apocalypse was now like a 6/12 or whatever. So the Dracula hit on the Apocalypse was far lower, which is probably fine because in my experience playing these APOC discard decks, these reliable discard decks, which often hovered around like the 56, 57, 58% win rate range. Like they've been great decks for a long time. They've kind of ebbed and flowed in popularity. But like I feel like Scorn takes a little bit off the Apocalypse, but I'm not convinced it's a bad thing. Because I don't know about you, but with Dracula locations, I'm often overshooting the power by like way too much. And it's elsewhere where I needed the help anyways.
He's almost, Drac is almost just, he's that card that's one of the most intimidating to go up against as an opponent because they just don't know what you have in your hand. And so that's like a lot of his firepower and what he does. I had a great time playing discard with just Gwenpool and having crazy stuff happen there. And Scorn, the 2 power, man, that she gives started to really help. You know, oftentimes you find that Morbius lane with a little bit of extra help is really tough to beat as well. And it definitely brought more relevance back to MODOK. I think we both gave her a 4 out of 5 for the discard archetype last week. And honestly, that's about where I'm still at with her.
Yeah, no, she's great. And I think the only limitation is that, you know, Apocalypse exists. If Apocalypse didn't exist, this would have been a whole new way to play discard. And I love the card. And to talk about like a deck that's performing very well, I like to bring up Gwenpool. And I'm showing on the screen here, but for the audio listeners, Blade, Morbius, Swarm, Calling Wing, Gambit, Moon Knight, Daken, Corvus Glaive, Dracula, Gwenpool, Proxima Midnight, and Apocalypse. That's one of the top performing shells right now featuring the card. And what's interesting about it is that it features Gwenpool, and it's using both the Swarms and the Scorns, which I did not expect to happen in a decently high-performing deck. I had done a couple experimentation decks where I was even playing Strong Guy to play out the Scorn on turn 5 or 6 as well, right? Like as you mentioned, I was running stuff like Swordmaster in that deck to get that extra power. I just liked the fact that it felt like there wasn't one way to play a Scorn discard deck. There were a number of ways you could play it. And I don't know if I'm sounding crazy here, but it almost felt like Scorn was almost like almost zooing in a way for discard, because it was creating these wider board states where like you had this much more balanced attack, especially with Proxima, right? Where you could reach into a location, buff a little bit. Whereas with the traditional APOC Drac, it's all about just one vertical lane and then hopefully Morbius wins. You know what I mean?
I think you bring up an excellent point, man. It got the zoo effect. It got the ability to go wide when it already had that ability to go tall as well. And just a little bit more unpredictable, which I think is going to marry very well into discard as we move on from it. Is it going to be like January, February, March till we get another discard thing? Probably. Like I think it's an archetype you can't mess with activate too much. We've already seen and done that just because of how Hella existed. All I know is Scorn is going to be a huge support pillar into what discard's going to become. And it definitely made it standable. It made it a playoff team, right? Like it made it something that can win most and a good amount of its matchups. But it does all, it always has that kind of ceiling.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of those situations, like people are probably looking to us to say, hey, Alex, Cozy, like, do I get this card? Like, what do I do? It's 6,000 tokens, which I was thinking about. I don't know if I like that this was a 6,000 token card, Series 5. Because I feel like if it's going to be niche like this, yes, it's good for the archetype. But I think that these type of very niche cards can be Series 4. Like, you know what I mean? Like this, I'm not saying that this is Series 4 because it's bad. It's Series 4 because it represents a very niche card that like, and the spotlight caches are really good. So it's like, what do you do with a card like this? Like, it's hard to recommend to get it because it's such an expensive proposition when it only goes in one deck.
What's a Series 4 card? What is that?
Derp.
Like when's the last time we've gotten one? Like when's the last, it's like, Speed definitely didn't deserve to be. I feel like they should almost just say they're dead. Like, you know what I mean? Instead of it just not existing, it's the same with big bads. Like, I appreciate it in the communication. When you roll out something, though, like when you roll out, a new whatever, and I think series drops are happening in December, which should be a large one, hopefully. But it's okay to announce things are dead. And I get it. Press is going to be bad, but it's already bad about the series. So Series 4 doesn't exist anymore, as far as I'm concerned, outside of just series drops, but new cards they're all S5 at this point. But yes, I get your point. I don't think she needed to be that necessarily. Kind of just an awkward place. Should you get her? Here it is. If you played discard before she came out, get the card. If you didn't, don't get the card. It's that easy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't completely revolutionize the way you're going to play discard, but it improves those decks. Like, I think it's a great card. I think it's fantastic. I think it's more than well statted. I don't know what you release as a one drop in discard that scales better than this. Like this has to be near the upper echelon of like what discard power can be. I think it's okay. Give the archetype something, right? Every archetype needs something that just puts it a little over the edge. That little X, like people think they really want like perfect balance. You don't want that. You want perfect imbalance. Like if you think about like what High Evo does, Cyclops in High Evo is not balanced. It's imbalanced for that archetype, but everything else kind of brings it back in line. So Scorn being such a great one drop for discards, okay, because it helps bring up the entire archetype to like be able to compete with, Zoo or whatever else happens to be kind of shaking up the meta a little bit. So I'm okay with it. I like the card. I like it a lot. And I'm just worried that it's just going to fall victim to a bad spotlight cache. It's going to fall victim to a expensive cost at Series 5. 6,000 tokens is a lot to pay. And that's kind of why I think people just fall asleep on it, which is rightfully so, man. It's expensive.
I think last week you talked about cards that are in archetypes that are well overstated, whatever. Let's call them game changers. I think that could be a really cool subject. Let's kind of pen and paper that in our heads here of like the MVP game changers of each archetype, because there are ones that, kind of fit that mold and it may not be obvious for everybody. So let us know if that's something you guys do want to see. But yeah, discard. Hey, it's got a good future ahead of it. We're gonna have to see where it lands. What about Agony?
I was laughing so hard to myself because you're like, what's a Series 4 card? They don't exist anymore. Agony's literally Series 4.
Is she? Yeah,
she is. But of course she is, because they're giving it away for free in high voltage, an actual mode that's good, and it's actually easy to unlock Agony. So of course it's going to be Series 4. And it actually feels kind of Series 4. So I don't know how much time you've had to play with it. And it's kind of funny, like this card just almost very, very little stats because I guess people are still unlocking it and stuff like that. My experience with this card was kind of icky in not a good way. I was kind of like, man, this is not great. But I did have some positive experience with it. Coccia, I'm just going to lean into this because this is a weird one because this is like a half review, half preview for us because like it was the first time we're talking about Agony.
Yeah.
We talked about it being in I gave it a 3-star, but an unenthusiastic 3-star. You came in lower than that. I got my notes somewhere. I don't know. I made a mess.
I think I gave it a 1.5 or 2. I think I didn't like it.
You did not like it, no. But no, you about 2.5, 3. You said maybe. That's what I have written down. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe it's all fake news. It's possible, but it's definitely not that. I'm leaning more towards as 2.5 mediocre 2 as it can be. Like, I don't know, man. Like this card, I was pretty unimpressed with.
I think we said it was the worst card of the month, and I think one of the things I said about it was that it doesn't have an archetype to fit into that it wants to be in that much, right? Like, I had a good time playing with it. Scarlet Spider. It was a good time. I had fun. It wasn't great. I didn't win a lot, but it was good. It was a good time. And I think, listen, like the destroy stuff doesn't really work all that well with it. And it does. It's not that it doesn't work. It's just that 12 spots, man. And she is one of those cards that I think this card could go up to a 1-3. Now, I get it. You have, what's his face? Hulkbuster. People want to compare that, so you'd have to figure that out. I don't know. They might have to do something with this card. I think it's pretty dead in the water. Just like any of these cards, we do have ways and futures for these cards to be good and things that we don't see, and that's definitely a possibility, especially with scaling cards. We've seen it with Shaw, Panther, whatever, Scarlet Spider. There is ways that this card can become much better, but yeah, it's a combo card that you don't need in the deck because it's only a couple power. Do you really need that? Is that going to change your Black Panther's outcome? Probably not, right? So I think that's the ultimate. To me, Scarlet Spider felt like a really good boost for it, and I do like her way better than Hulkbuster. I like the idea that it's not this 50-50. It's not after the fact. It feels much more natural to play her. So Scarlet Spider and the clone, Attack of the Clones, did feel good with her when I did that. I don't know. She's not the worst card in the game. I just don't. I see her being like you know what? She feels like a free card. That's what she feels like to me.
Yeah, she feels like a free card, a free Series 4 card that they want to OP. Yeah, it's exactly what it is, and it's okay. It's fine. Like I've experimented with her for 3 decks, right? I did try some Phoenix Force. I'm a huge Phoenix Force gamer now, and it didn't feel great. But that got me thinking, what if we try Agony Multiple Man, do some stuff there with some move, right? Have Human Torch with Agony. That stuff makes sense. Then same problem, though. It's like, okay, yeah, I Agony the Human Torch. But like, move's issue is not making Human Torch big. That's the easy part. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not the challenge. And you're not playing Agony Multiple Man and having that move around. Like, that's not your win condition and move either. Multiple Man's more of a Phoenix Force card now. So it's like, okay, that doesn't work there. I started playing it in Destroy. That's where I liked it. And I think it's like a very mediocre, fine card in Destroy. I tested it with Hulkbuster. Like, I played them together. And I didn't mind it. Like, honestly, like, you could play Agony and then like, oh, I top decked X23. I don't have my stuff yet. I'll play X23 and then destroy it with Carnage next turn. That's okay. You're still building a faster null, a bigger null, whatever. You can play it with, Wolverine. Obviously, you want to play it with Deadpool. That's ideal, right? But you don't always get that line. You're still getting value from it here and there. But it wasn't great. I don't ever think it makes the top 12 cards. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it actually makes the cut for, this is the meta list for Destroy. This is the best way to play Destroy. I don't know if it ever makes it there, but it's not that far off. Like, if it was a 1-3, I think it's really strong. I think it's crazy strong.
Insanely good at a 1-3.
Yeah, but it's funny how 1 power here kills it.
Yeah, because like a 1-3, you just merge it to anything. At that point, you get the value. But yeah, I mean, that's just Marvel Snap, though. We've seen that with Stature Black Bolt. They got nerfed by 1 power point. They were gone for 6 months. They're back up. They're here again. Like, it's just, people don't realize that, what one power does do or whatever. Yeah, I just ultimately too, I just think it's the style of decks that she's played in is one of the. And here's the thing, I'll be true. Like I haven't played like eons amount of Agony. Like I was playing a lot of high voltage. Like I'm gonna give her a much more chances. I haven't even made a video with it. I got personal stuff in my life going on. But next week, I'll dive into it a bit more. I think that when I say she feels like a free card, listen, Cassandra Nova was a free card, a very good one. So it is a joke, but it does. It feels like that thing you get at an arcade that's really fun to play, and then you're like, I'll go play with my other stuff because maybe that it didn't break, but it just falls a little flat. So yeah, Agony. I would say overall I stand by where I'm at. Probably like a 1.5 though. I might go down to that. Sadly, maybe a 2. I haven't played enough. I'll go 2 for now.
Yeah, I'm willing to go 2. 1.5 is like, that's a kick in the pants.
I think it could be a 1.5.
Yeah, it definitely can be. But I do think that like it has playability in Destroy. Like I think it does, but not a lot. Not a lot. Like I don't know if I like the card, and it's also worth considering here. It's so funny you bring it up. So comparing this to Cassandra Nova is not even close. It is so much worse than Cassandra Nova. And don't forget, guys, Cassandra Nova got nerfed. She's been nerfed. It was so good. And it's a shame. I had this shower thought of like, while you were talking, it's like, okay, so they really went hard with high voltage. They knocked it out of the park. It's so good. And Agony's the reward. Okay. For Deadpool's Diner, literally day one, disaster launch. Disaster stream with IGN Mickey Mouse show over there. And then like they put so much pushing power behind that Deadpool's Diner. They had Cassandra Nova, such a great card, and an answer to the meta at the time, which was Erisham. Don't forget, the meta was like Cassandra Nova's like, I'm here to save the meta, guys. Don't you worry, I'm here, right? There was so many reasons why that should have been like the shining spotlight moment. And it was poo-pooed by a poo-poo game mode. And then now it's like, if they had just launched high voltage, then what would we be on a different path right now? Like, would Marvel Snap be like, I don't know. Just trying to think, like, who's super famous right now? Is Brad Pitt still famous? Is Brad Pitt playing Marvel Snap if like the timelines are changed and high voltage is released instead of Deadpool's Diner when Cassandra Nova? Am I completely off track here? Do I need to talk to Kang the Conqueror?
We went from, I had a shower thought, which I was like, he was having a shower thought about Cassandra Nova. I was like, where is this going? Like,
I actually said I had a shower thought about you and about talking about Cassandra Nova, I think. So.
And colored me excited. We went from there to, does Brad Pitt play Snap? And I was lost somewhere like 3/4 in. I wanted, not halfway, like 3/4 in. I got through most of it. The Brad Pitt, does he play? I'd like to think he does.
And Cozy, that's going to take us to the Snapchat mailbag. We got a bunch of questions here today. And are you adjusting your frame? What's happening there? Why are you sliding in frame?
I'm leaning back as I move myself into. How'd you catch me? How'd you know? That was good.
I don't know. It's like my peripheral vision, and you were like moving. I was like, what is happening? Just tripped me out.
Yeah,
but
this right there. All right, Snapchat mailbag.
This is some live editing.
Mail time. And you said it's a funny one on my side.
I said it was a funny one. That doesn't mean it's actually funny. I just, it might clickbait. Maybe. I don't know. You know what I mean? But let's go into question number 1 from John Donovan. And we were talking about kind of like sleepers and stuff like that on the prior episode, cards that are underappreciated and stuff. And John Donovan said, Shadow King overlooked as usual, Cube Stealer and Sleepy always. We were talking about the Cube Thieves of Marvel Snap, and we did not bring up Shadow King. John took it personally.
I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry for that. I will agree with you. Shadow King, I don't know what other card to compare it to, is the card, though, in this game. It doesn't matter how much we say he's good and what meta he's good in. He probably will never be better than he will be this next week with Balance coming out, and people aren't going to play him. I think they're just like,
I know.
Nah. Like, I don't know. I think they just build their decks and they don't think about him. So he is a cube thief because people don't expect him because no one's playing him. But he is legitimately fantastic.
Bro, all I'm going to say is you want to talk about actual cube thieves? I was going to bring it up last week, but I'm like, no, Cozy can't handle it. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to put you on the spot right now. If you go back to the Twitch Rivals tournament when I finished as a finalist, you telling me I didn't steal cubes with Kang? The amount of cubes I stole with Kang.
You're right. I can't
handle one of the most competitive tournaments. Dude, I was ripping cubes out of some of the best players in Marvel Snap's hands with Kang the Conqueror.
I feel
Dude,
like
I'm telling you, I'm just saying it.
I feel like you and Kang, that story is like the Steelers in football in like 1970, and I meet one and they're like, "Hey, 1970, we were good." That Terry Bradshaw, he's your king. Terry Bradshaw is your king.
Oh man, who's the guy with the beautiful hair? Palmamalu? I don't know how to say his name.
Troy Polamalu.
Palmamalu?
There's a Pittsburgh fan right now in stitches.
It's shambles right now.
He's in the Dove commercials, right? Or no, Head and Shoulders, obviously.
Yeah, obviously Head and Shoulders has to be. And that also reminds me of like people that like still reference the Bears defense, right? Like that's another thing, right?
Yeah,
like talking football, like the Bears defense, man. It's like, well, that's like the 10
or
years
just
ago, 15
anything of relevance with the Jets being good.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and don't forget how the New England Patriots. Remember when they were good?
It was like 3 years ago, buddy. Listen, we're still on our heyday. You know it's good that we can be the worst team in the NFL right now, and I'm still like, I'm fine, man. I have so much numb on me from like the last 20 years of success. And listen, our quarterback looks legit. I could just talk sports with you for 3 hours, but we would get so much hate that we surely can't.
Yeah. Also, Coccia and I have been releasing a new podcast about curling. Stay tuned. Next question comes from PixelBomb97, and it reads, I was actually thinking about maybe they would revert Crystal to her original ability. Shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 3, but make her inactivate. What do you think about that? And I'm going to repeat that because I know everyone here is forgetting what the original ability was, but basically, PixelBomb is suggesting Crystal with inactivate, shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 3 cards. That was her original ability.
Zabu and Agent Venom, sign me up.
Yeah, basically. Oh, wow. Agent Venom would just love that. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. Because you play Agent Venom on 2, then you shuffle all the boosted stuff in your hand. Oh, dirty. Yeah, okay, that's never happening. Okay, sorry, Pixel Bomb. Cozy's already broken it. Glenn heard Cozy's idea. It's like, nope, we're out.
Glenn just went like scratch it out on his notepad over there.
Yeah, Glenn was like, that's actually a good idea. Then Cozy's like, oh, whoa. right off the list there. Super Cows does have a rather long statement, so I'll do my best to read through it here. Loki was finally in a good place in the meta when Erisham released, and he became a card that was disproportionately better in Erisham. To nerf it completely killed him outside of Erisham. Loki was a unique archetype and his personal favorite, so it sucks to see it leave like that. Do you think introducing card-specific bans could be a possible solution to preserve Loki and future cards like Loki, or is it too much of a can of worms?
Yeah, have you seen that meme of the who was it? Which one is it? Franco? I think it's James Franco. Maybe it was Dave. The first time kind of thing. It's like, hey, listen. Welcome to the Arrow fan club. Welcome to the Loki. You had your moment. You had your time to shine. It was a good year. It was a good 2 years, actually, I think. So I do feel for you. But it happens a lot. I don't think they'll ever do bans. If you want the realistic answer, I don't think they're ever going to do bans ever. Maybe in a specific mode, like potentially, or in a competitive mode that they dive into or something. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so you're thinking maybe like a fun little like tournament style thing where everyone bans a card. We've seen that stuff in the past, but you're talking about like integrated into the client, cards get banned, or you can ban specific cards. Imagine you could be like, hey, I can ban one card from the ladder, because like old school StarCraft and Warcraft, like competitive ladder used to be like this. Every season would have like 10 maps, and you could ban 2, and you would never play on those 2 maps.
Oh yeah,
right. And it would always match you on 8 of the others, and you and your opponent would always have a pool of 6 you could play on at a minimum, because they would ban 2, you would ban 2.
Oh, I
think that's kind of fascinating.
I love pick and ban. Don't get me wrong. I think pick and ban is one of the coolest systems, and it works in games like Rivals and MOBAs. I think it's so great in those. I don't think it works in Snap. Necessarily, like at least in the Snap that we have at this given moment, because it does make you rethink. Like again, if we have a competitive mode and they both draft decks or something, and you can pick ban and then you go into the deck making phase, all that kind of stuff. Sure, that sounds really cool. But like, yeah, I get it. Like Rivals, man. You know, I want to be Magneto. They banned Scarlet Witch. I'm like, it's over. I literally can't use my combo. So I do love the concept. I just don't think Snap's gonna get it. But I do feel for you. I'm sorry that Loki's not. I'm sorry you can't play him.
Yeah, and like something like, what's it called? Like you've seen like League of Legends or Dota 2, they'll literally have like 30-minute draft sessions with coaches in the room, right? And it's the draft is like where the game's won or lost half the time, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not what I'm asking for. But I do think that it would be kind of an interesting idea there from Super Cows there. And also Super Cows does also mention near the end there, been listening every week for about 2 years now. I appreciate you both so much. Thanks for making my morning commutes better.
Oh,
Thank you for listening, Super
I'm so
Cows.
sorry that I just like ripped on your welcome to the club thing over there. But no, hopefully it comes from a place where I lost arrow a long time ago. So that's where it comes from.
That's right. And Joshy G has a question for the mailbag. If they want to keep making Infinity Stones benefit Thanos, I want Reality Stone to make a new unique location that supports the Mad Titan or the stones itself as well. I would also like it to draw me a card again. LOLs.
Yo, what if they did game boards? Like cards could like. What if you played the Reality Stone and it would like change the game board too?
That's pretty cool.
That
That is cool. That's like not relevant to the balance, but like I like the effect. Like it actually changes the world to what's his world called? Is it called Titan? It's Titan.
Where he's from, Titan. Yeah.
Because there's that one scene where it's like Doctor Strange is sitting there, right? And then like Thanos is like, the Maw is dead, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? Do you know that scene? And then he like talks to Strange about the history of his planet. You know, the Thanos wasn't wrong people, or the Thanos was right people reference those passages as biblical verse. Right?
Yeah, right, dude. There's always one of those too. Is like Empire was never wrong, and Thanos. But yeah, I think that Thanos isn't where we want him in Snap yet, but we're closer and closer. We just need to get a little bit more unique, almost.
Yeah, because I think the idea here is that the Reality Stone's like a chaos thing, but in reality, Thanos uses the Reality Stone to benefit himself.
Yeah.
Like he's not like random stuff go Reality Stone and then like everything just apocalypses around him. He's like, no, a Reality Stone to my advantage. So what if instead of being a completely random location, it was like one of 3 random locations that benefited Thanos' playstyle? Or not just that, but maybe they were unique to just Thanos. That could be some extra flavor.
I feel like we've said this for a long time, and we kind of get this with the Activate a little bit. I would love to see a press and hold mechanic for choice. So like we used to say this with Heimdall, left or right. You could hold left, you could hold right, and it would go that way. Like in a situation like that, you play the Reality Stone. I get they don't want to slow the game down, but does it really? Like you play the Reality Stone, and it gives you a choice between 2 locations, even just a choice between 2, and you can kind of use that to determine, right? Even like that kind of stuff, I feel like does have a home in Snap, and it would give relevance to cards that have a bit of their chaos, you know, like Scarlet Witch or whatever.
Yeah, but Activate is click and hold. So the technology exists, my friend.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, but with the choice, whatever. Like it would have to be with the choice thing and generate 2 whatever. I just think that it could be something that Snap could use.
Yeah, we got a couple more here. And we have another question here from Jonathan. And unfortunately, I have to warn you in advance. This is one of those once you see it, you can't unsee it things.
Okay.
So fair warning. I don't know if you all have noticed, but it's kind of been annoying me. And that is when you play Silver Sable, the deck that she shoots is your own deck because it visually has your card back. Whereas Cassandra Nova does not do that.
Man, that's like game breaking.
Yeah, it is, man.
I'll never be able to play the same. And I play a lot of Sable, so uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly. Like I never actually considered for a second that she was legitimately shooting your own deck, but then the other card was getting debuffed.
I love these little things that you guys find as players and viewers. Like there's stuff I don't see, and I can guarantee you I don't think I've ever noticed that. Like I'm just busy being like haha or whatever I'm saying during that time. We have a Sable gamer here. Yeah, I don't think I don't think I've noticed that. It was cool.
Yeah, it's so funny. I usually my Silver Sable glitches and like goes underneath my board, and then the deck kind of just floats around. So I'm not quite sure what game you're playing, but it looks like we have some Silver Sable gameplay. We got one last question here to close off the mailbag this week, Cozy, and I really like this one from David. It's not even a question, Cozy. It's a confused statement. No way. I'm also just realizing that isn't Gwenpool's hair.
Yo.
In reference to our conversation last week.
Those.
A lot of those on the Snapchat there. I thought I was crazy. Apparently I wasn't.
Yeah, that was like the #1 comment on there. There was so much about that. Like there was so much to take away from that episode, and the #1 comment had to be that. There's so much about that hair. There are a couple cards like that are a little tricky on the eye. For me it wasn't, but again, it's one of those things you can't unsee, and then once you see it, you know it. But like if you don't know it, you just view it as that, right? That's something like me trying to like aliens. I don't know, but does that make sense?
No, it does. And it's like so many people are like, the actual cat on her shoulder, like WTF, like they had no idea. And like it's so funny to me that like that happens on the Snapchat all the time. We'll have a conversation about like all these like serious things and gameplay and like, you know, ups and downs and win rates and stuff. But it's the comment section is never about that. It's always about something. Like every week there's like something very random that seems to capture the attention of the masses. And this week it was the Tappy Cat on Gwenpool's shoulder.
Listen, all I know, guys, is that we have been doing this 2 years, and next week we get to really celebrate. I encourage you guys, if you haven't, if you always think about it and maybe you're listening, comment down below something for the Snapchat. Make it about Snap, make it about us, make it about the show, best, worst moments, what you hate about us, whatever. And we're going to be excited to read through that and go through some memory lane stuff. A lot of cool things happening. It's something I don't want to. There's so many things in YouTube and what we do that I overlook and go to the next thing and go to the next video, and next milestone. And we'll talk about it more next week. It's not it, right? We can't talk about it this week. But to truly go 2 years strong is something so cool and something I'm so proud of. I've done a lot in the industry of different magnitude, and nothing compares to like the pride I have in doing this 2 years in a row. So don't miss it. It's going to be a good one.
Absolutely, guys. And thank you so much for being there with us along the way. It's been a journey, but it's been a journey that you've done with us, and we appreciate every one of you. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you on that 2-year episode of the Snapchat.